This week, I'm super excited to talk to you guys about how to craft a quit list. And like most things in life, I've come to the quit list because this is something I'm really bad at. It's something that I had to figure out through trying and failing and trialing and failing and suffering through things and bumbling my way to a solution that actually worked. I'm not a great quitter. What I am good at, I'm really good at pushing rocks up hills. I'm really good at just keeping my head down and doing the work. I'm good at not making waves or not creating a ruckus. I'm good with making do. But kind of like we talked about in the episode of Don't Get Stuck at 6, if you don't want this year and this decade to feel mediocre, you're going to have to figure out how to muster up the courage to quit some stuff. Because let's be real, our lives are probably full. It's not like you're looking at your budget or your schedule and you're like, wow, there's just all this spaciousness. There's all this room. I'm planning out my new year and I have all of this space to add and add and add and add some more. The reality is, if we're going to double down on the stuff that's really important to us, if we're going to focus in and really try to lean in and make some progress, we're probably going to have to give some stuff up. And this might be projects that you're working on. This might be expenses. Oh, y'all, there might be some relationships that need to go on this list. There might be some ideas or some beliefs or some habits that, you know what? They're not serving you. They're not moving you towards your goals and towards your ideal life. So I define the quit list to make it easy in 3 different categories. First is the stuff you're just going to stop. You're going to stop doing it. You know what? It is not serving you. It maybe has never served you well in your life. So you're going to write that down under the stop part of your quit list. And there's some stuff that you might pause because it's hard. Let's be honest. It's hard to give some stuff up cold turkey, whether it's expenses or relationships or habits. But there's some stuff that maybe it does fit your values and it is important to you. But just right now, while you're leaning into something else, you're just going to hit pause on it. And that might look like you do want to go out for lunch with your friends, or you do want some of these expenses in, but if you're in a season right now of trying to pay down debt, it just doesn't fit in that season. And it's fine just to hit pause, be like, you know what, y'all? I just need to take a quick break from this while I make progress on my goals and stuff that's important to me, like paying down debt. And then there's things that you say, you know what, just not yet. I know that I want this in my life at some point, whether it's a physical item or a relationship or some sort of career thing, but right now isn't the time. And that's something that I've totally experienced. There was times, especially with being a mom of 5 kids, when we adopted our 3 sibling group kiddos in the middle, all of them came at once. So in less than 24 months, in under 2 years, we went from 1 kiddo at home to 5. And there were a whole bunch of things I had to pause. There were a whole bunch of things I had to say not yet. I kind of went to my friend group and all of those relationships and I was like, yeah, I love you and you're amazing and so important to me. And please keep inviting me. But I'm probably going to say no for the next year because it's crazy and it's intense. And I'm so excited that we're friends and just give me a year and I'll be back. But for this small-ish season, I had to hit pause. And there were some things that it was just not yet. It just wasn't the right timing to make it a big part of my life. Sometimes that can even be our stuff that we own. Timing can be so important in our financial life as we make purchases and decisions. You can make the exact same decision and it be a horrible idea at 22 and a really good idea at maybe 55. For example, perhaps a vacation home might be a really bad idea when you're 22 and broke, but if you're 55 and you have a lot of assets and you're transitioning, it might make perfect sense. So I worked this one job and I had a coworker who really didn't like my car. At the time I had this Honda Civic, it was like 17 years old. And man, it was a beater. I mean, like all of the paint was popped. It looked rough and there was like no amount of shining that could really help it out. But this coworker took particular issue with my car. You see, she felt that my car was too ugly to be parked in front of the business with all of the other employees' cars. See, she felt my car, because it was such an embarrassment, should be parked around back so that no customers could see my car because it was reflecting poorly on the business. And having grown up, not with a lot of money, and it's sometimes in my childhood feeling a lot of shame and feeling a lot of embarrassment, either just because that's how I was feeling or because other people were teasing me or making fun of me or excluding me because I didn't have all the best things and all the newest things and the shiniest things that, the kids or teenagers were after in that moment. It really triggered me. It really triggered me in that sense of shame and not belonging and being excluded. And we were in a point where maybe I could have just gone out and bought a different car, or we could have taken out a car loan. Because it's easy to give in. But I saw something she didn't. See, this car was taking me closer to my dreams and to my values and to my ideal life. This car was helping me become who I really wanted to be, which was rich. This car was the path to help me become rich. And you know what? 2 years later, we became financially independent, and I got to start to chase down even bigger and crazier dreams of being a writer and a speaker. And it helped me lean into just my values of having more family time and more adventure and more rest. Making those hard choices to say not yet really helped us land our ideal life of traveling and hiking and being home on Saturdays and being home after my kids got home from school. Because at the end of the day, it's not other people's job to understand our dreams and to understand our goals and why we might be stopping a few things. We might be hitting pause on a couple things. We might be saying not yet. My long-term vision wasn't always to drive the cheapest car imaginable. But for that season, I just said, you know what, not yet. A nicer car, I can buy that in any decade of my life. Not yet. So this year, as you're planning your year, as you're thinking about this decade, what could you do to create some space, either in your budget, your calendar, and just your emotional energy? Maybe there's one relationship that's so draining and so exhausting for you that you could either pause it or, maybe you could stop it altogether. But what could you put on your quit list this year to really give yourself the ability to double down in 2020? Because remember, we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be a little bit more courageous every day because adventure awaits.